Good afternoon and welcome to episode 90 of the Jacksonian. I'm yours truly, Jats Johnson, and I'm here with the editor of Bucknuts247 and co-host of Ohio State Buckeyes Live Wednesday mornings on Ohio State, the voice of college football, the one and only himself, Steve Helwagen, as we'll be going over the 2025 edition of The Game and each of our favorite memories of the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry. And let me tell you something, folks, you're going to be in for a wild ride. How you doing today, good buddy?
I'm doing great. What's going on?
It's going very well. Just getting ready for a wild rivalry week in the 2025 season. And, for those who don't know about you and the magic that you create, would you like to tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Well, I've been doing this here with Bucknuts247 really for about the last 20 years covering Ohio State. But I actually went to school here in the late 80s and got a full-time job covering the team in 1995. So this is year number 31 of my full-time coverage of Ohio State. So, yeah, this is probably my 37th, maybe Michigan game that I will see in person. Had a few of them, obviously, as a student prior to the becoming a full-time reporter. So, yeah, I think I've spent 5 or 6 days of my life sitting in a stadium watching Ohio State play Michigan. So, if it's happened in the last 30, 40 years, I probably saw it.
Oh, man, it's always fun tuning into the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry. And I remember, the last time we did Jacksonian episode, which is on May 22nd, 2024, we got to talk a little bit about how you got to see Earl Bruce's last game in person, the
Yes.
1987 Ohio State-Michigan game where they ended his career on top.
Yeah, they fired him on the Monday before the Michigan game. They had just blown a lead against Iowa in a game at a home and gave up a touchdown in the final seconds to lose to Iowa, and they fired him 2 days later on Monday. And so everybody kind of took up the cause that, hey, we want to send Earl out with a good memory or whatever. And the team wore Earl headbands across their forehead. And I was among the students who went up to Michigan to see that. And we got a ticket. Michigan wasn't any good that year either. It was kind of a rare year where both teams were kind of down, and we were able to get a ticket for the game for $20. I do remember it was about 35 degrees, so it was kind of cold, but that's the thing with this game. The stakes have been pretty high in recent years, obviously, with one or both teams ranked in the top 10, but if the weather is predicted to be bad or real cold, there's a lot of people who just flat out won't sit outside in that kind of weather to watch a football game, regardless if it's two top teams. So sometimes you can get a ticket for this game, whereas, if it was played in September, you probably wouldn't. So, yeah, it's a little bit different.
Oh, man, it's just always fun seeing, there's moments like 87, 06, 2013. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
you name it. There's always those fun moments. But before we get to that point where we'll discuss our top 5 favorite moments of the game, let's go over a preview of the game, shall we? Because you were at the press conference of Ryan Day today. What was your takeaways from that press conference?
He seems pretty confident. I think winning the national championship last year has relaxed him just a bit, but he is also very much adamant that they have to win this game. And it's part of Ohio State fabric and the lore of Ohio State football that you want to beat the team up north. You want to beat Michigan. And only the best Ohio State teams, could qualify if they beat Michigan. Now, obviously, last year, Ohio State rebounded from that loss, and there was still more football to play, which a lot of years in the past there wasn't, other than an exhibition-type bowl game. But they got into the college football playoff and made it count. They got in there, beat Tennessee at home by double digits. Then went out to the Rose Bowl, beat Oregon by double digits, the Big Ten champion. Went down to Texas and beat Texas by double digits, and then beat Notre Dame in the championship game in Atlanta by double digits, and made a run through the playoff that's going to be hard for anybody in the years to come to duplicate. So with 4 double-digit wins against top 10 opponents. So a great run last year to rebound from the Michigan game. I think this year they would just prefer to beat Michigan on Saturday, go into the Big Ten championship game, take their chances against Indiana. I think it's a prohibitive favorite. Obviously, all Indiana has to do is beat Purdue. They're a 4-touchdown favorite to beat Purdue. So that seems like that's a done deal. But at any rate, just win this game and move on to the next one and take your chances from there. That's what they want to do.
Agreed. And just looking at Ryan Day's history against Michigan, where the only win he's got is 2019, and obviously it's a good thing that he's got that natty from last season. And for a moment there, he was being compared to John Cooper, from the '90s, of where it's like, oh, we can always win every other game, but we can't beat Michigan. But here's a comparison that may blow some people's mind viewing this episode. Era Persigian. Here's why. The wins against USC, right? 1966, 1973 resulted in a Notre Dame national title, right? The only year where Notre Dame beat USC that didn't result in a national title was 1965. He had a losing record against USC. But unfortunately, but luckily that was not, nobody was really talking about that as much. And I think like Ryan Day, again, like that natty helps him quite a lot.
Oh, no doubt. When they lost last year, you had a lot of Ohio State fans, screaming from the rooftops that this guy needs to go. He doesn't get it. He doesn't understand what our culture is all about. He's trying to put a square peg into a round hole, trying to run into that defensive front that Michigan had, and it didn't work, obviously. So people just were looking for anything to dump dirt on Ryan Day. Well, he went back to work, and he and his coaches and the players got everything back together and went out and won the playoff. And so, it's a different time and a different era. I think Ohio State fans that are in their 50s, 60s, 70s are going to say you got to beat Michigan or it's a lost season. I think people who are a little bit younger are going to say, that's important. That's one game that, we really, really want to win. But last year proved we don't have to win it to have even greater glory with winning the national championship. And, obviously for Ohio State to do that, I think it was the 7th time they've won a consensus national championship and 3rd time here in the modern era, or at least in this century, with 2002, 2014, and last year. And they are right now in position to keep right on rolling. If they win the next 5 games, they'll be champions again. So that's where it's at right now. They are bucking to be the best college football program in America right now, and have to go out and prove it. That's for sure.
No doubt about it. And just looking at the position battles, I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Will we be seeing Tate and Smith come back on Saturday? Does it seem like they're coming back to play this weekend?
Yeah, Coach Day continued to say the same thing that he has said, that they are working as hard as they can. The medical staff is working as hard as they can to help those guys get back on the field. And it'll be up to the medical staff Friday, Saturday, whether or not they can make a go of it. And I guess, again, just take the coach, for his word on that the guys are working hard and that they intend to play if they can. And if it's going to be a case where they're going to continue to injure themselves or not for their greater good or for the greater good of the team in the big picture. I mean, do you push all the chips in the middle to win this Michigan game and then risk a re-injury and not have them for the playoff? I mean, this is a real difficult decision, I think, for the players, their families, the coaches, everybody involved. And yet, I think if there's any way that those guys can get on the field on Saturday, I think they'll be there. So, again, let's just, I guess, let it all play out. You weren't particularly emboldened by what you saw from the offense last week against Rutgers, Without those two guys, nobody else in the wide receiver room really stepped up. They had 14 completions for the game, and only 4 of them were to wide receivers, 2 to David Adolph, who's a former walk-on, and 2 others to Brandon Ennis, who's been the 3rd starter all season, and one of those was for a touchdown. But Mylan Graham was shut out. Quincy Porter didn't play. Presumably he was hurt. And Bryson Rogers didn't have a catch as well either. Now, the good news was the tight end, Max Clare, he came through and had 7 catches and a touchdown and had his best game yet as a Buckeye since his transfer from Purdue. So he came through in a big way. And so we'll just have to wait and see how it all shakes out on Saturday. But it would make life a lot simpler for Julian Sayin, this, wunderkind redshirt freshman starting quarterback for the Buckeyes, if he's got his top 2 guys out there with him.
Well, and I will say that if Ohio State can end that losing streak to the Michigan Wolverines at the Big House with Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt on the call, that can definitely help Julian Sayin's chances with the Heisman for sure.
Yeah, the Heisman Trophy, Ohio State hasn't won one since Troy Smith in 2006. They've had some other candidates with Justin Fields and the defensive end, Chase Young, the quarterback, obviously, J.T. Stroud. They've had some other candidates here in recent years, but have not had a winner. And I think that, Sayin is right there right now with Mendoza. I think from Indiana is probably the top 2 guys in that discussion. And I think that, what it could come down to is if these teams play in the Big Ten Championship next Saturday, could the one whose team wins that game, the one who plays better than the other one in that game, be the guy who brings home the Heisman Trophy? And again, Ryan Day says that's something we'd like to do, certainly. But ultimately, the number one thing, aside from beating Michigan, and winning the Big Ten, is winning the national championship. So those are the goals for this program, and that's what they're going for.
Yeah, and just kind of like looking at the Hoosiers, they've had fantastic. That's like their best year ever, even better than last year. As a matter of fact, Sid Natty's been making some magic all over the place. And as for the Buckeyes, looking at this game, looking at all the aspects, if you had to pick a score prediction right now, which would it be?
Well, the line for the game's right around 9.5 points. Not sure what the over-under might be, maybe 48 at this point. I'm not sure. I would think something in the 28-17 range for Ohio State. I just think that Ohio State's defense, to me, just seems to be the difference maker in this matchup, that they are far and away the best defense in the country. And I think some people would say, have they really been tested? I mean, they shut down Washington to 2 field goals. Nobody else has really done that. Illinois, they didn't allow a lot of points in that game either. Texas got 1 touchdown, 7 points in that game. But, the last 5 games were all teams with losing records. So a lot of teams are going to be more battle tested, going into the postseason, or at least going into the conference championship game, or going into week 14 than Ohio State. So that's something they're going to have to overcome and maybe prove that they are as good as their stats, and their records say they are. I think that they are a lock currently for the playoff at 11-0. I don't think there's any doubt about it. Oh. They probably need a win in this game to secure a first-round bye, regardless of what would happen in the Big Ten championship game. I think they lose this game, they run the risk of being, the 5-6 seed, somewhere in that range, and would then have to play or host a first-round game.
Well, I will say this: at least you're not going to have to deal with Tennessee this year, because like they kept just like stomping the field, acting like it was theirs when it really wasn't.
So, yeah, that was kind of a comedy of errors by them last year. They were going to take over the horseshoe. I remember they were, posting pictures on social media at 11 a.m. for an 8 o'clock game. Like, where's everybody at? Why aren't the tailgaters out here? Because these people had a brain and they knew that it was 31 degrees outside and they weren't going to stand outside in that for 9 hours for a game at 8 o'clock. They leisurely drive in at 5 o'clock, have a couple beers and a hot dog, and go into the game, like any rational, sane person would do. So, Tennessee, wow. Well, let us know when you're back on the front page of college football, Tennessee. We'll see you then.
Man, that would be so funny if that was a home and home game. Because, Tennessee was running their mouth before the game even started.
Yeah.
And then, the Buckeyes just chew them up like a chicken nugget. It's like,
yeah, they were up 21-0, and they were driving at the end of the first quarter, and the entire stands at Ohio Stadium stood up and gave the team a standing ovation. I mean, it was just as dominant a start as you'll see. And then, of course, they probably did that even better at the Rose Bowl. I think it was 34-0 before Oregon finally scored toward the end of the first half. I mean, that's unheard of, to play the number one team in America and be ahead 34-0 to start the game is just incredible.
Well, and I will say, having a first round bye is great and all, but that doesn't
Didn't
always
help anybody last year. Yeah, they were all rusty when they got to their January 1st games, and they went 0 for 4. Now, of course, two of them were what? Arizona State and what was the other one? Was it Boise State? Was that the other one?
Boise State, I don't think.
I don't remember. I know Arizona State was one of them, and
Arizona State had the bye week.
Yeah, so I think Boise State may have been the fourth highest ranked conference champion last year, because the ACC champion was further down. So and they both got chewed up and spit out in the January 1st game. So yeah, it was and of course, obviously Georgia lost, and Oregon lost to Ohio State. So there it was.
There it was, no doubt about it. And just looking back at, before we get to the top 5 games of the history of the game, I'll go ahead and give my prediction. I think this year will be the year that the Ohio State Buckeyes end this losing streak to the Michigan Wolverines, but it's going to be low scoring. I don't see Ohio State beating the spread, but I think it's going to be an Ohio State 21-17 victory. I think defenses are going to bring their best A game. I think everybody on both squads is going to bring their A game. I mean, you're not seeing Michigan bring their A game against Northwestern, but they're going to come firing on all cylinders for the Ohio
Jackson,
State guys.
Yeah, you make a great point, because it was 2 weeks ago they went to Wrigley Field and they played Northwestern, and they had to kick a late field goal to win the game. And that was a game where they let the quarterback get sacked 3 times. They had 5 turnovers, I believe, missed 2 short field goals, which their kicker is one of the best in the country, typically, Dominic Zavada. And so, I mean, they gave Northwestern every opening to win that game, but Northwestern just didn't have enough to take it. And they played so bad. And the thing I'm watching is that's going on is, as bad as they're playing today against Northwestern, that's how great they're going to play against Ohio State. You just know they are going to play their number 1 A game against Ohio State, and give Ohio State everything they have in this game on Saturday. So they got their bad one out of the way 2 weeks ago against Northwestern, and they were still able to come out of there with the win, and they've won 5 games in a row. Their 2 losses on the road at Oklahoma, on the road at USC. No disgrace in either of those 2 defeats, although both of them were by double digits. They weren't particularly close at the end. But again, both those teams are good teams, and to me, Ohio State's going to have to put it all together for 4 quarters. And they've been a great 4-quarter team. I mean, last week against Rutgers, it's 14-3 at halftime. You're wondering, are they just kind of messing around here? I mean, they fumbled at the 1-yard line on the first drive. That cost themselves a touchdown. So really, it should have been 21-3 maybe. But obviously, the second half, they came out, played lights out, and 28 straight points to start the second half and won the game going away. So that's what they're looking for again with this game against Michigan, is to come out fast and grab control early, take their crowd out of the game.
Oh yeah, yeah, because like the first half, like I don't think we're gonna see that many points scored in like say the second quarter, and I don't think we're gonna see that many points scored in the third quarter. And that's how I just kind of came to this conclusion that it's going to be a 21-17 victory for the Buckeyes. But it would not surprise me if either one of these teams win, because like again, Michigan, what they have on the line is win this game, you're in the playoffs. You're in the playoffs, and they would love nothing more than to get another victory over the Buckeyes.
Yeah, potentially they're in the Big Ten championship game too if Washington were to upset Oregon and Michigan beats Ohio State. Then Michigan goes to the Big Ten championship game and would play Indiana. I think we're considering Indiana a mortal lock, obviously, to beat Purdue. But that Oregon-Washington game up in Seattle, Oregon had to put a lot of eggs in the basket of beating USC this past week. And are they going to be able to bounce back and play a really good game? And here's Washington, obviously, 2 weeks ago they went to Wisconsin and they lost, so they want to get one back. They want to win a game that maybe they're not supposed to win to get where they want to be as well. So they can take Oregon out of the picture entirely with the win over them. So yeah, it'll be very interesting. I know you're scrolling through the various tiebreaker scenarios there, but Oregon needs to win its game and needs Michigan to beat Ohio State for Oregon to go.
Yeah, because that's what we're looking at. Like for those tuning into the show, we have an article from Patrick Murphy from Bucknuts247 bringing out the scenarios for each team in getting to the Big Ten title. And oh boy, Michigan's going to need Purdue to pull off some Black Friday magic, and they're going to need Washington to pull off some Saturday afternoon magic. But they got to beat the Buckeyes in order to get in. I don't see Purdue making magic against Indiana. I feel like Washington can make magic against Oregon. I mean, Purdue, the way I look at it, they're closer to getting a drink at the Long Branch with Miss Kitty than they are getting an upset over Indiana. That's just not happening.
Yeah, no doubt. They got no chance. That's what they've got. So yeah, it's a Purdue. I mean, this will be their 18th consecutive Big Ten loss. The last Big Ten game they won was over Indiana at the end of the 2023 season. Obviously, Indiana made the coaching change after that and brought in Signetti. And, Indiana's been lights out since then. 21 wins, I think, over the last 21 or 22 wins, whatever it is, over the last 2 seasons. So, yeah, they've just been outstanding.
Man, if we saw this scenario, this is my favorite one because I love a good revenge story.
Yeah, all you need is Indiana to turn it over 7 times, and maybe Purdue could take advantage of it. I saw Purdue in person out at Purdue, and they are honestly not very good. So I don't know that there's any way that Indiana loses that game unless they turn it over 6 times and there's 2 feet of snow on the ground. I just don't know how that changes what the result of that game is going to be. But yeah, that would be a fun one. I think we will get it.
Oh man,
One day we will get that. But with 18 teams in the Big Ten, you got to be swimming in the deep end of the pool to get an invitation to that game. And there's a lot of programs that aren't capable of crossing that rope into the deep end of the pool just at this point. So it's kind of a closed shop right now.
And there's that last scenario of Indiana getting in irregardless, as if they were to somehow lose to Purdue, which that's not happening, but if they did, they would definitely need the Buckeyes to win and Washington to win. But as I always tell my friends and family, don't ever put yourself in a position where you need somebody to win or
somebody
lose.
else to help you. Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
that's the case. And Ohio State certainly, in Indiana, they control their own destiny. Indiana is a foregone conclusion, as we've concluded. But Ohio State, you're going to have to earn this one yourself. It's kind of like Hollywood Squares to win the game. You can't win that on the opponent's mistake. You got to answer a question yourself and
Oh,
win the square to win the game, the X's and O's game.
oh man, you got me thinking about like the Peter Marshall Hollywood Squares games where I
Yeah,
watched them on
Chuck
YouTube and
Woolery. Oh yeah,
oh yeah, and Tom Bergeron like
yeah.
that man, he's good. But now we get to the top five, our top five moments of the game, like according to us, and we'll start with you, Steve, because you are
Oh
the guest of
man,
honor.
man. Let me see. I wrote something about this just the other day, and if I could just reference what I wrote, might make more sense. The very first Ohio State Michigan game that I attended was in 1986, and Jim Harbaugh was the quarterback. Bo Schembechler was the coach, and Jim Harbaugh guaranteed a victory for Michigan. Now, Ohio State that year, I was a freshman at Ohio State. They were 0-2 in football to start the season. First time that had happened since 1896. And they lost to Alabama in the old kickoff classic that used to be played at Giant Stadium, and then went out to Washington and got thumped 41-7. And you're like, is Ohio State even going to field a team this year? But they reeled off 9 wins in a row, and they were in position to win the Big Ten championship and go to the Rose Bowl if only they could beat Michigan at the end of the season. Well, the running back, Jamie Morris, who played a long time in the NFL, he had over 200 yards rushing. Chris Spielman, the linebacker for Ohio State, who played a long time in the NFL, he had 29 tackles for Ohio State, something that's just unheard of. And Ohio State missed a field goal at the very end. And Michigan pulled out the win that day and made a truth teller out of Jim Harbaugh, a young Jim Harbaugh. They won the game 26-24. But that's, your first memory is always one that you think about. I guess if here was my list. And number one on my list was 2002. And this is why Ohio State won the game 14-9. Ohio State had not won the national championship in 34 years. And throughout the 90s, they had only beaten Michigan twice throughout the entire decade of the 90s, 94 and 98. And so it had been 4 years since Ohio State had beaten Michigan, and they had a 13-0 team, or rather a 12-0 team, looking to get to 13-0 and go out to the Fiesta Bowl to play Miami, Florida in the BCS National Championship game. And this Michigan played again their best game of the season. It hung right there with Ohio State, but the Buckeyes won 14-9. And it was a guy, Will Allen, the safety, intercepted the pass from John Navarre at the end in the end zone at the south end of the stadium. And when he caught that pass on the final play of the game, the people came from every direction and met in the middle. It was just this overwhelming, outpouring of support. It was spontaneous combustion. You watch those high shots that they show on ESPN when fans and students are rushing the field. There's never been a field rush that happened any faster than this one. I mean, it was boom. I mean, immediately 20, 30,000 people glommed in the middle of the field there, and just unbridled euphoria. Ohio State had finally beaten Michigan in a game that mattered to go to the national championship game, which they hadn't won championship in 34 years. Now, it didn't matter they were playing Miami, who was a prohibitive favorite. Nobody cared about that on that day. All that mattered, they asked Jim Tressel about that. Well, you've won the Big Ten, and you're going to play Miami in the national championship. And he corrected Jack Arute or whoever the sideline guy was. He says, oh, the most important thing about today was the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry. He corrected him right there on the spot. So you can't argue with the senator, or as we call him here in the state of Ohio, the lieutenant governor right now. So there you go. Number two for me is probably 2016, 2-3, and the game went to double overtime. And Curtis Samuel scored the game-winning touchdown in the overtime after J.T. Barrett scrambled to get the first down at the 15-yard line. They spotted the ball just barely touching the 15-yard line, and obviously Jim Harbaugh wasn't happy about, because he should know where the ball is spotted 70 yards away on the Michigan sideline. But at any rate, 30-27. Ohio State didn't parlay that into a national championship. And one of the other ones, obviously, is the 1-versus-2 game that they played in 2006. Ohio State won 42-39 in just a great thriller type game. Troy Smith cemented the Heisman Trophy, but Ohio State didn't do anything with it. They got thumped by Florida in the national championship game after that. So let me scroll down, find some other ones that I've been to that I liked. 2005, a great comeback. Ohio State was down 9 in the fourth quarter at Michigan, and Troy Smith, the year before he wins the Heisman, throws the ball up for grabs, and Anthony Gonzalez, who went on to be an NFL wide receiver, went up and made an acrobatic catch about the 5-yard line, and the Buckeyes punched it in, and they won the game 25-21. That was a big one. People around here still talk about 1973. I guess I was alive then, but
Ohio
the
Ted
State Michigan
time.
tied 10-10, and Ohio State had been to the Rose Bowl the year before. They'd gotten rid of the no repeat rule, and so Ohio State was eligible to go. Well, the Michigan quarterback, Dennis Franklin, had gotten injured in the game, and they put it up to a vote of the athletic directors, and they voted for Ohio State. Ohio State got the tie on the road at Michigan, and Bo Schembechler and the admin at Michigan were just fuming, hopping mad that they didn't get the vote for that. And obviously Big Ten Network did a big documentary on that. So those are probably a lot of the ones that I think are at the top. 1979, obviously Ohio State blocked a punt late in the game to win the game at Michigan and end the season 11-0. And they went out to the Rose Bowl, played USC in a 1-versus-2 game, and USC pulled that out to win the national championship. But 79 was another great one as well. There have been so many great games over the years between these two teams and so many heroic efforts. I mean, today that we're taping this is November the 25th of 2025. I got to tell you, there was a game that was played on November the 25th of 1950, a little game they called the Snow Bowl.
The Snow Bowl.
It was 75 years ago today as we taped this, and the teams combined for 41 punts. They played in a blizzard, and Michigan won the game 9-3. They blocked a punt for a safety, and then they blocked a punt for a touchdown, I think, were the two scores. And Vic Janowitz, who won the Heisman Trophy, kicked the field goal in the blizzard for Ohio State's points, 9-3. And Wes Fessler, the Ohio State coach, resigned in the few weeks after that game. And as a result, one Wayne Woodrow Woody Hayes became the new Ohio State coach for 1951. And the great era of Ohio State football begun. And I don't think it's really stopped in the 75 years since then.
Man, that's amazing. It's like the 1950 Snow Bowl, like today being a historical
day.
75
years ago today.
Man, that always gets me excited going over this day in history in the world of college football. Like the 1950 Snow Bowl, that's in my top 5 for sure. 1973 10-10 tie. The start of the 10-year war, 1969, with Bill Fleming on the call for Michigan and Ohio State.
24-12. I think Ohio State threw 5 interceptions that day or something. And, Woody was not known for throwing the football. Ohio State just didn't have it. They had won 10 games the year before and 9 or 10 games leading into that game, and just could not get it done that day. I don't think they would have been allowed at that point to go back to the Rose Bowl. They still had that no repeat rule in place, but they would have certainly been the national champions regardless. So to go undefeated again.
I think Penn State is definitely regretting turning down that Cotton Bowl bid, like for that year. It's like that was just not good. Like, I mean, I understand that they didn't think back in hindsight, but still, though, it's if you're Penn State, you're definitely wanting to go back in time and go, oh, you know what, we want to play Texas in the Cotton Bowl.
No doubt, that would have been something.
Oh man, but 2006 is definitely on the top of that list for me.
Yeah, 1 versus 2. Crazy game. Crazy game. 42-39. And as we said, Troy Smith, put the final touches on his Heisman Trophy bid. Ohio State ended up 12-0 that season. And the problem was they had about 6 weeks until they played Florida in the national championship game, and everybody got fat and happy in that time. And Florida, they did a number on Ohio State. Ted Ginn returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown, but somebody stepped on his foot, broke his foot, and he was lost for the rest of the game. And Ohio State was definitely lost in the desert, no doubt. 41-14, that was an awful day. Urban Meyer coronated that day with his first of, I guess, what would that be? 3 national championships.
Yep. Yeah, he did a fantastic job at Ohio State, no doubt. And the last one for me is 2016.
Yeah.
That was a
Just,
classic.
all the overtime games that I have ever attended and been at, I think there's only one of them Ohio State lost. I think it was at Northwestern one year they lost, where they could not stop 2004. They could not stop Northwestern running the football in Northwestern, and it shot in the overtime. Just drove the ball right into the end zone. I mean, just ran it right into the end zone on them. And otherwise, Ohio State, I believe, has won every other overtime game they've ever played in. Illinois in 2002, Miami, obviously the double overtime game. They played a triple overtime game against Phillip Rivers and NC State in 2003. And if you want to watch an entertaining football game, it was like 24-7 at halftime. And then Phillip Rivers put on a clinic in the second half and in the overtime. And their running back from North Carolina State, they had ACC officials doing the game at Ohio Stadium. They called like 5 pass interference penalties on Ohio State to kind of help keep the Wolfpack in the game. But the final play of the game, the runner from North Carolina State comes down this far from the goal line in 2003. And it's obvious on the replay. There was no instant replay in 2003. The ACC officials had the integrity, came in and they talked about it. And one guy on one side looked at the guy on the other side, and they both started shaking their heads. He didn't get it. He didn't get it. I mean, it would have been a major scandal had they thrown their arms up in the air. But to their credit, they didn't. And you want to talk about a heart-stopping moment. That was the defending national champions, from 2002, that at that point had won 16 games in a row. And it's triple overtime. It's triple overtime. And Ohio State hangs on and wins that game on a defensive stop. Penn State, double overtime. The walk-off sack by Joey Bosa was really something. There have been a few other ones throughout the years, but that one against Michigan, I mean, for all the marbles, 2 versus 3, I mean, what do you do? I mean, it's that was one of the crazier ones, no doubt.
Oh man, with Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit on the call, and that's the last time it's been on ABC since then. And I ever since then we've seen it on Fox. But I will say, it's a shame it's not on CBS though, because I want to hear Brad Nessler call it once more. Because I mean, he called it in 08, he called it in 07. I'd love to hear Brad Nessler call it.
I agree with you. I think ABC always did a great job with it. They understood the gravity of it. I think Fox with Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt, they do a good job with it. But it's unfortunate that Fox has a leverage on that with their situation. And yet that game, I did the story as I talked about the rivalry. I mean, let me just find what I'm looking for here in terms of the 2006 game on ABC had 21 million viewers. The 2023 game on Fox had 19 million viewers. That's the most viewers of a game anywhere, going back a number of years. So, and the 4th most in the regular season since the 90s. So, that'll just tell you what a bankable commodity Ohio State versus Michigan is. It is a tremendous draw for the networks, and Fox treats it as a prized property, no doubt.
Oh man, that is for sure. Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Auburn, Texas, Oklahoma, and Notre Dame, USC are the rivalries in the world of college football. That is for sure. And as
No
we
doubt.
get, oh yeah, and as we get to the end of the episode, and we thank you again for coming in for episode 90 of the Jacksonian. And for those who don't know about the magic that you're cooking up on Bucknuts247, where can people find you?
Yeah, Bucknuts.com. It's part of the 24/7 Sports Network, owned by CBS. And, I do a weekly show with the voice of college football, Mark Rogers, myself, and Tony Gerdeman from Buckeye Huddle. We do that every Wednesday at 11 o'clock. It's a live show. And we'll be previewing the Michigan game, obviously, there. And really, every week we talk about whatever's going on with Ohio State football. So be sure to join us for that. But Bucknuts.com will have complete preview coverage, everything going on. We have Coach Day's press conference from this week where they asked him, is it fun to coach in the Ohio State-Michigan game? He says, fun is kicking ass. So, and celebrating after you win. There's nothing funny about this in the lead up to it, but the fun is when you win. So he was on the winning side for two times as an assistant, 2017 and 18, and in his first year in 2019. Obviously, 21 and 22 still tainted in my mind because of the in-person scouting scandal at Michigan. That had been ferreted out by the time they played Michigan in 2023. Give Michigan all the credit for 23 and 24, but yeah, those two, 21 and 22, ought to have a star by them, and why those weren't vacated is beyond me.
There you go. Tell your friends, your family, and the cashiers at Kroger about the magic that Steve Helwagen brings as he brings that wagon rolling west for Bucknuts247 and a Buckeyes Live Wednesday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern Time.
Eastern,
with
yep.
With Mark Rogers and Tony Gerdeman from Buckeye Huddle, all right here on Ohio State, the voice of college football. And give Steve Helwagen a follow at Steve Helwagen at /Twitter. And check him out on the magic that he creates on Bucknuts with Patrick Murphy, Garrett Hodges, Dan
Dave
Rubin.
Biddle. Yep.
Oh, yeah, Dave Biddle. I can't
Great group of people.
Oh, man. Y'all make all kinds of Buckeye magic on Bucknuts.com.
Well, what's crazy is guys come and go at all these other websites, Rivals on 3, all the local independent sites and everything. Dave and I have been together for over 20 years. We just said goodbye to our recruiting guy, Bill Kurlick, had been with us for 15 years. Patrick's been with us for a decade, and we just hired Garrett to replace Bill. So we have great stability at Bucknuts.com, and we have the veterans in the marketplace that can really do, I think, a great job. And really, everybody in our market does a wonderful job covering the team, but I think that our stability is what has set us apart, and we've got a great following at Bucknuts.com.
Well, if you want top-notch Buckeye coverage, check out Ohio State, the voice of college football, Buckeye Huddle, and Bucknuts247. All right there on Bucknuts247. Like, comment, subscribe to Bucknuts247, and also give it a follow on Instagram. If you're scrolling through Instagram, check it out. And, of course, you can check me out on Jackson Johnson 979, where I've got 89 other episodes of the Jacksonian, and I got magic making with my buddy Sports Talk with Austin on Pits Analysis and Final Whistle, all right there. And you can check me out on Alabama with the Voice of College Football with Jeffrey at Only Talk Sports, Trevion Ware, and myself, as we were joined by Kyle Loomis from E2C Network for Auburn Week from last night, all right there. And you can check me out on SEC at the Voice of College Football, where we have the SEC Live Show Mondays and Wednesdays, right after Crimson Tide Live, 6 p.m. Then I'm on SEC Live Show, 7:30 p.m. Central Time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And for more updates, what I've got going on the Jacksonian, SEC at the Voice of College Football, Alabama at the Voice of College Football, my appearances on the Feinbaum Show, where the weekend's full of surprises, where I call in, and on Lockdown West Virginia with Mountaineer Paul for Jackson's World College Football. Check me out on Jats VOCFB on /Twitter and on Instagram at Jackson Johnson 543-908. And with that being said, like, comment, subscribe, click on the notification bell so you never miss no video whatsoever. And we will be seeing you soon. And have a happy Tuesday, everybody.